Hi, my name's Addison Ellis, and I'm going to be talking to you about Hockey I, Edgar Heap of Birds. Edgar Heap of Birds was born in Wichita, Kansas, November 22nd, 1954. He would become a multidisciplinary artist, using public art, large-scale drawings, acrylic paintings, prints, and porcelain enamel on steel outdoor sculpture to spread his message. He went to many different places to receive his education, including East High School in Wichita, Haskell Indian School, the University of Kansas, where he received a Bachelor of Fine Arts, Temple University Tyler School of Art, where he received a Master of Fine Arts, Royal College of Art in London and England, and he received Honorary Doctors of Fine Arts from 2 places. In 2008, he received it from the Massachusetts College of Art and Design, and in 2018, he received it from the California Institute of the Arts. He has been known for being very generous with his knowledge, and he often gives back to students. He has been a visiting professor at Yale University, the Rhode Island School of Design, McEllis School of Fine Art, and the University of Cape Town. He has also taught Native American Studies at the University of Oklahoma, where he previously taught fine arts. The only mentors I could find are his heritage of being a Shawnee and Arapaho Indian, which he uses as a big influence in his pieces. His art. His major influences are his heritage of being a Shawnee and Arapaho Indian, and he also uses the history of his people to help influence his art by highlighting the violence against them. He uses his major themes of military genocide of indigenous people and the historical violence against Native people to draw parallels between historical violence and modern violence, and this allows him to also bring attention to the historical violence against natives that's often overshadowed or hidden. The first kind of art we're going to talk about is the Noof. He quotes that the paintings are inspired by the Cedar Tree family in Canyon Lands. These works are about sovereignty and landscape, and they speak to the issues of homeland and beauty. Noof is a Shawnee word for four, and he uses colorful shapes with jagged edges to form layers of abstraction. He began this series in the 1980s, and it allows him to create an abstract landscape by eliminating the horizon line and using the hues of the land to surround viewers. The shapes reference the wooded canyons of the reservation lands of the Shawnee and Arapaho in Oklahoma. The first piece that we're going to look at is Noof Series number 36, which he made from 1992 to 2003. It's an abstract reference of the gesture, shape, and color of the canyons and the reservations of Oklahoma, and he used acid dyes on silk jacquard, which is a kind of fabric where the pattern is actually woven directly into the piece of fabric and not printed on it. If you look, this one's very saturated, and the bright colors range throughout the entire color wheel. It's not missing a single color. Keep that in mind while we look at the next one. The next piece, which is different from all the other ones, as it does not have little circles within the entire piece, and it also only has autumn colors, is the Noof for Autumn 2014. The colors are a lot more saturated and bright, and it's made up of primarily yellow, reds, and oranges, and it's actually an acrylic painting. The next kind of medium we're going to be talking about is ghost prints. Basically, he uses primary and secondary prints paired together on the same plate. He runs the print once, and then without replacing the ink, he runs it again, meaning he gets a very saturated print and then a not so saturated print. The first piece we are going to talk about that is a ghost print of his is the Shawnee National Holiday from 2005 to 2015. I put this one in here because it was one of his earlier ghost prints, and I wanted to be able to show how he has changed. If you look closely, you can see that the background colors are not as solid as the future ones are going to be. However, they all have the same message of where having something to do with his heritage. This piece is ink on rag paper, and each print is 15 by 22, and they are put together to make up a larger piece. The next piece we were going to talk about is Genocide and Democracy 3. It was made in 2015, and it is also ink on rag paper, and each print is 15 by 22 inches. He believes the Republic was built on violence, and that even now the genocide of natives is shadowed. He believes that the incredibly violent relationship between indigenous and colonizers is important to remember, and he points out that there is no museum for the native people that were the subject of a genocide, while there is a Holocaust museum for the Jews that were killed by Hitler. There's no mention of the 15 million natives that have been killed. He uses red colorings on the background and white, and it kind of acts like a stop sign, drawing your eye to the words and the piece as a whole. There are a few quotes I want to... There are a few sentences I want to point out, including "make uterine hats your sport." This comes from the Sand Creek Massacre, where the Chivington militia, they really wanted to erase the womb of Shawnee babies. That way they couldn't have any more babies and basically end up dying out. And so the soldiers would literally cut out the uterus and wear it as a hat while massacring the people, and they basically made it into a kind of sport called the Shawnee uterus. This next piece is Surviving Active School Shooter, Custer, 2018, and it's a great picture of the two different ghost prints. As you can see, one of the prints is a lot more saturated, while the other one is not as saturated. So he did this because school shooting caused many people to get upset, and this piece is about Custer and how, as a U.S. cavalry officer, he was killed in a clash with Sioux Indians, and Hockey Eye v. Edgar sees him as a terrorist and believes it is important to remember the country's historical behavior towards indigenous people and how devastating it was. Like before, red is very prominent in this piece, and it could be drawing towards the fact that school shooter often ends in bloodshed, or it could be acting like a stop sign does, where it draws your eyes to the piece and makes you notice it. It's more noticeable. Another saying I want to point out is Fort Marion Shawnee Camp X-Ray, and it's about how after the massacre with Custer, they took the women away to be raped, and they took the men, and they actually took one of his relatives called Heap of Birds and made them prisoners of war. There were no charges, no trials, and no due processes, and he compares it to Guantanamo, and he says that they take you and put you away, and no one knows where you are, who you are, and they can really do whatever they want with you. We are going to move on to his drawings. The first one we are going to talk about is one of the earliest pieces that I have on this slideshow. It is American Policy 2, 1987. It's a pastel piece that once again depicts the fact that the lives of the indigenous that were killed are being overshadowed and hidden from mainstream media. And I really like how relocate and destroy are quite literally the center of the piece. My eye is drawn almost immediately to that space. It's set up almost exactly like his ghost prints, where it is different sheets of paper with the different sayings put together to make one large piece. The colors are very bright, and the words seem to be almost sketchy-like, where they're not completely like hashed out. Some look to be like just cross-hatching. The next piece I want to talk about is Boost West, 1990. It is another drawing, and I want to talk about this one because I like, once again, it is set up like the ghost prints and the previous drawing, but I really like how the words are colored. If you look, there is a part of it that says censor blood bone, and bone is actually kind of hard to see because it is done in white, but I like how the words and the colors kind of match, like the feeling of the words. Like blood, of course, is going to be red. There's by, which it could all be bad, so I associated it with red. Yellow, blue, and green are all, the words are corresponding to their colors, and I like that detail. The final medium we are going to talk about is his sculptures. I was kind of confused about his sculptures because it's not what I would think is a sculpture. He basically makes signs, which I always thought it would be like more of a graphic design type thing. But then again, I guess they are 3D, so it could be sculpture. So this piece is called Trail of Tears, 2005. The Trail of Tears is basically a really bad historical event. The Trail of Tears was basically an ethnic cleansing and forced displacement of over 60,000 people between 1830 and 1850. Basically, it was mostly Cherokee, Muscow or / Creek, Seminoles, Chickasaw, and Choctaw nations were forcibly removed from their homelands to newly designated Indian Territory west of the Mississippi River. It was basically just a trail of suffering. The relocated people suffered from exposure, disease, and starvation while they were en route, and thousands died before they even reached their destinations, or some actually died just shortly after because of the trail. So now that you know a little bit of the history of the Trail of Tears, these signs definitely kind of hit you differently, because especially after doing some research, you can learn that the Cherokee actually fought to not be displaced, and so I feel like the first sign could correspond to them, while everyone else, but they ended up being forced to walk no matter what. And of course, the walk to Oklahoma calls back to his reservation home in Oklahoma,